What if everything you thought you knew about Princess Diana's resting place was only part of the story? Right now, the world is asking questions the royal family never wanted answered. A stunning announcement has sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace, across the quiet grounds of Althorp.
Here's the truth. Princess Diana does not rest in a royal chapel. She does not lie in Westminster Abbey or Windsor Castle or any of the grand sacred spaces where British royalty have been received for 1,000 years. She rests on an island, surrounded by water, accessible only by boat, guarded by a lake encircled by 36 oak trees, one for every year of her life, with black swans on the water and white roses at the edge. And in 2025, that island, that quiet, extraordinary place, has become the center of a story that the royal family never wanted to have to tell. Break-in attempts, arson, renovation, debate, and a growing urgent question that millions of people are now asking out loud. Is it finally time for the world to have proper access to Diana's grave? We are going to go through all of it today, and I promise you, by the time we're done, you will see this story in a way you haven't before.
This story is deeper, darker, and more emotional than you could ever imagine. Stay with us. Every second counts.
The decision that broke all the rules. To understand why what is happening now matters so much, you have to start at the beginning. When Diana died in Paris in August 1997, the question of where she would be buried was not simple. For 5 centuries, 20 generations, the Spencer family had laid their dead to rest in Spencer Chapel, in the nearby village of Great Brington. It was tradition. It was expected. Her brother, Earl Charles Spencer, changed that. He made the decision to bury Diana on the island at Althorp Park, the Spencer family's ancestral home in Northamptonshire. His reasons, which he explained publicly in 2017, were twofold. Security was one, privacy was the other. He wanted William and Harry to be able to visit their mother without the presence of cameras, crowds, or ceremony. The ground was consecrated by the Bishop of Peterborough before her burial. This was not a royal chapel. There was no crown involvement, no palace protocol, no Windsor oversight, and remarkably, the royal family did not contest it. Think about that. The most famous woman in the world, a figure whose death triggered a global outpouring of grief unlike anything seen in modern times. And the institution she had been part of, the institution that had stripped her of her HRH title after her divorce, raised no objection to her being buried on private land, away from royal soil, in a setting entirely outside their control. Many people who have studied this period closely believe that silence said everything. What was placed in the coffin, there are details about Diana's burial that rarely get discussed. Details that, once you know them, are almost impossible to forget. Diana was dressed in a black wool cocktail dress designed by Catherine Walker, a designer she had worn often and loved deeply, a choice she had made herself in the weeks before her death. She was laid to rest wearing it. In her hands, rosary beads, a gift from Mother Teresa, who had died just 5 days after Diana. 2 women, both devoted to the vulnerable, both gone within the same heartbreaking week, separated by continents but joined in this small, profound detail. And in her handbag, which was buried alongside her, a photograph of her sons. Not a formal portrait, not a public image, a private photograph of William and Harry, the anchors of her life, in her hands as she was carried into the earth. She was buried in a lead-lined coffin, traditional royal protocol, despite the fact that at the time of her death she was technically no longer a royal. The divorce from Prince Charles had removed her HRH title. By the palace's own definition, she was a private citizen, and yet she received a state ceremonial funeral, a lead-lined royal coffin, and a global outpouring of grief that no working member of the royal family has ever come close to inspiring. The palace took her title, the world gave her immortality. Even at the funeral itself, the royal standard that had covered her coffin was removed before burial, a small procedural detail that nonetheless felt, to many watching, like one final negotiation over how royal she truly was. The setting itself. Once you understand the reasoning behind the burial location, the setting itself becomes something extraordinary. The island sits in the middle of what is known as the Round Oval, an ornamental lake created in 1868 on the Althorp estate. A Victorian pleasure ground designed for an aristocratic family's enjoyment became the eternal home of one of the most significant figures of the 20th century. Leading to the water's edge, a path lined with 36 oak trees, one for each year of her life. Walking that path means marking every year she was alive, every year of her childhood, her marriage, her motherhood, her reinvention, her warmth, her pain. On the water, black swans, water lilies, one of her favorite flowers, alongside white roses. On the southern edge of the lake stands the summer house, originally part of the garden of Admiralty House in London, relocated and transformed into a memorial space. and nearby, the temple, a Grecian-style building named in Diana's memory, bearing 2 stone tablets. One carries a line from her brother's eulogy, delivered at Westminster Abbey in the days after her death. The other carries Diana's own words. "Nothing brings me more happiness than trying to help the most vulnerable people in society. Whoever is in distress can call on me. I will come running." Those words, carved into stone, feel more relevant with each passing year. In June 2025, the temple was freshly repainted. Earl Spencer shared photographs of it looking immaculate, ready for the summer season. A small act of care that meant a great deal to the millions who still feel her absence. The threats that won't go away. And now we reach the part of this story that is genuinely alarming. Diana's resting place has not been peaceful. Earl Spencer has confirmed that there have been 4 attempted break-ins at Althorpe, 4 separate occasions on which someone tried to breach the security of the estate where his sister lies. Earlier in 2025, a farmhouse on the property was destroyed in what is believed to have been a deliberate arson attack. Spencer shared his shock publicly. The farmhouse was unoccupied at the time, but the act was clear in its intent. Someone wanted to cause damage in that place. This is the reality of what the Spencer family has lived with.
Diana's grave is located on an island in the grounds of Althorpe Park, the Spencer family home for generations. The Bishop of Peterborough consecrated the ground before her burial. This detail alone is remarkable.
The island was chosen in part because its isolation provides natural protection. The lake acts as a barrier. The only way to reach her grave is by boat. And yet even that has not been enough to deter those determined to intrude on that sanctuary. There have also been questions over the years about the state of the island itself. Some visitors who have caught glimpses of it have described it as wild, overgrown in places, untamed in a way that surprised those expecting something more manicured. The Spencer family's response to that has always been, in essence, this is intentional. Diana was genuine. She was human in a way that the constraints of royal life tried constantly to suppress. A slightly wild island, surrounded by nature, feels more true to her than any polished marble monument ever could. But the security incidents have forced a harder conversation. Whether the site needs greater protection, enhanced surveillance, or structural changes to the memorial itself, these questions are no longer theoretical. Her sons, the lake, and the grief that doesn't end. In July 2017, 20 years after her death, William and Harry returned to Althorpe together. They stood by the water. They looked across the lake at the island where our mother rests. The Archbishop of Canterbury conducted a private service. Catherine was there, and the children, George and Charlotte, still very young, a family gathered around a grief that had shaped everything. Both brothers have made separate visits over the years. William brought Catherine in 2011. Harry brought Meghan in 2022. In his memoir, Harry described rowing across the lake to reach the island. The boat wobbled. He steadied it. He took the oars while Meghan sat in the stern, and he rowed his wife across the water to visit his mother's grave. There is something in that image, the quiet of it, the privacy of it, the absolute humanness of it, that no official portrait or public appearance has ever captured about who Harry is beneath everything else. A boy who lost his mother at 12 years old, still rowing toward her decades later. Harry also revealed in that memoir that he had, at one point, wished to be buried alongside her. It was deemed impossible. He has since made different arrangements. It may be the most quietly devastating sentence in the entire book. Althorpe will open its grounds to visitors from July through August 2025. People will walk the path of 36 oak trees. They will stand at the edge of the lake. They will read Diana's words on the stone tablet of the temple. They will leave flowers on the bench outside. They will not be able to reach the island. Whether that ever changes, whether Diana's final resting place becomes something more formally recognized, more accessible, more protected, is a conversation that grows louder with each passing year. What is beyond question is this: 27 years after her death, the world has not moved on. The flowers keep coming. The questions keep being asked. The lake at Althorpe remains one of the most quietly powerful places in England. Diana once said that whoever is in distress can call on her, that she will come running. Perhaps it is simply that the world has never stopped calling. If this story meant something to you, if Diana's life and legal size still matters, leave a thought in the comments. Share this with someone who loved her. Subscribe if you want to stay close to the stories that go deeper than headlines. Until next time, take care of yourselves.